Hi guys, this is Aussie Ty from A Crypto Current Affair, and we're at the Sydney Crypto Meetup tonight to hear about Wanchain from the founders themselves. We've also got some other speakers tonight, so stick around and we'll see you after. So stay tuned and you can watch the footage from the presentation. I've got hyperlinks down the bottom there, so if you want to jump to a particular question or a particular topic, you can go straight to there, because it does go for quite a while. So this is Aussie Ty with my pal Tom, and you're watching Crypto Current Affair. So we've just heard from the Wanchain team, Tom. What do you think about that project?
Yeah, we did. I think it's a very interesting project.
That sounds good. Considering there's so much familiarity with the audience, we'll kind of maybe spend a little less time on the overview of Wanchain, and then we can dive into more details in the Q&A.
What they're trying to do is, let's essentially put it into two facets. They're trying to be a cross-chain blockchain. So interoperability, so communicating between blockchains, and they also have their own private blockchain, what they call intra-blockchain. So you can also build a blockchain on their platform. It gets quite confusing, but basically those are those two facets. They want to connect other blockchains, such as Ethereum platform, to their own platform, and they also want other people to be able to build private blockchains on their platform. Hopefully that summarizes it correctly for you guys.
Okay, great. I found it was very interesting. The venue tonight was great. Freelancer at World Square in Sydney. Sponsored by Rivetz. That was really interesting. So Rivetz, what did you think about the Rivetz discussion?
Rivetz have a product coming out shortly. We're in beta testing with two of the products, and there's lots more to come. So the first one is a Rivetz Authenticator, and that is a safer alternative to a 2FA and can be used like any other 2FA. And the reason why it's safer is that the encrypted code is produced within that hardware vault in the phone. So it's less susceptible to interception by malware or hackers. And then we have our Rivetz Developer Toolkit. So the Rivetz ecosystem can be built in from development and allow the user to set rules around how they make their transactions and how they store their private keys. So I can set a rule that I can't, if I want to transfer more than $20,000 or $50,000 worth of Bitcoin, I need to be within a 5 kilometre radius of my home. Or I can set a rule that if I want to, all of my transactions need to be made from one of my personal devices, because I don't think anyone here would be logging into other people's computers or phones to access exchanges or transfer any type of value. And what that means is that the guy or the person on the other side of the world who built the My Ether Wallet phishing site cannot access the Facebook guy's $1.3 million worth of tokens. So our SDK, or our developer toolkit, is due out in Q3 of this financial year. And I just want to say, if there is any developers here who are interested in whitelisting for the public release, come and chat to me after. And thank you to DJ and the other organisers for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great that they brought awareness out to all the crypto community and the crypto traders, and I think that's a positive in my books anyway.
Yeah. So some feedback that I would have for the Wanchain team is that you're talking to crypto people here, and so we're very, you're preaching to the converted already. So you didn't have to sell us on the crypto. I think they could have just gone straight into their technology, why it was different, all the killer applications, that rather than selling us on crypto, because I think they wasted a bit of time
definitely.
and lost.
And I kept chit-chatting you in the background. I think
we got bored
was his
a bit.
name Dylan or
Matt?
Because it was Jack, Lou, and the presenters.
Oh,
of
okay,
Wanchain.
sorry. Yep.
I'm not sure. I think his name was Dylan.
The American guy was quite engaging. I think he communicated really well. But the founder
when they brought out the graph about like how digital assets have been acquired more and more from 2014 to 2017, I thought that was completely unnecessary.
Since January 14 with Ethereum, there was just a trickling of assets. And then after 16 happens, we've got the DAO here. That's that big kind of bar after January 16th. And still not a whole lot. And then all of a sudden, In 2017, you just have this explosion of digital assets, and it's really accelerating.
What people really are wanting to know is what exchange, when is it going to get listed, where can we buy it from?
When is Wanchain going to be listed so that people can actually buy it? Because right now we can't blame them completely if we take their word for it, which is they've submitted their token to the exchanges, but they're waiting for the APIs, they're waiting to be integrated into the systems of the exchanges, and I understand that takes time. I also understand that should probably have been factored in beforehand, but it depends, because I think the main point they were saying is they're introducing a protocol, the Wanchain protocol. So they're saying that the protocol takes longer than just introducing any other basic...
Like an ERC20, because they've got a template already.
Exactly.
Whereas it's a brand new platform, so
I understand
more rigorous.
why there could be delays there, but at the end of the day, if you're looking for clarification as to when Wanchain is going to be in exchanges, we still don't know. We asked them, they did not tell us.
They did not divulge.
They're keeping that close to heart.
So I'm gonna so stay tuned, and you can watch the footage from the presentation. I've got hyperlinks down the bottom there, so if you want to jump to a particular question or a particular topic, you can go straight to there, because it does go for quite a while. So this is Aussie Thai with my pal Tom, and you're watching Crypto Current Affair.
Very good. So we just put tonight's agenda over here. The title is Rebuilding Finance. We're going to talk about the basically introduction about myself and the project. And Dustin's going to talk about the basically what's going on and what's the next steps for the Wanchain, all the projects we have. And also we're going to talk about the accelerator and future projects coming up. And then we have a Q&A session. Okay, cool. For some of you who don't know about me or the project, just to give a quick introduction. I got into the space pretty early in the 2012 and 2010. We had a little DF fund in Austin, Texas. And before I went to Austin, I spent around 20 years in the IT industry, doing mostly in the e-commerce, on the e-commerce software development. And I actually got into the startups as well for public listed companies in the US. And I took that company, actually took the technology and hang on a second. I learned how the business works and also the technology from Europe, and took it to China back in 2005, and started two companies in China. There was 2005 and 2007. And before before that, I spent around 14 years in Columbus, Ohio. So I pretty much have a mixed background of economics and business consulting. I spent some time in the securities, basically help the big companies to get public listed IPO back in China. So a little bit background in the financial financial area as well. So that's why I'm very interested in the financial world. And but in 2013, with all the investment big returns on the Bitcoin, I start looking to the software development. And work with some folks in Austin, Texas, and at that time, I think I met Dustin in Austin, and some of you might know David Johnston. He was our investor, and we created a little company called Factom back in 2014. At that time, we were trying to build a data layer on top of Bitcoin. It was really back, I think early at that time, not too many ICOs, and then we were the one following Ethereum. So at that time, it was pretty tough. It was a big market meltdown in 2013, but we did the ICO. It was pretty tough, but we were able to raise enough money to keep going, and the project wasn't very bad. The coin was top 10 for quite some time. It was listed number 8 on the coin market cap for a long time. And also got interviewed by The Economist for the famous 2015 October edition, The Trust Machine. And we got very famous around the world. And at that time, I was invited back to China, and I was responsible for the China market expansion as well, and started realizing that China market is so big. I had the impression that China's market, for the blockchain might be bigger than the rest of the world combined at the time because of the mining and all the people participating in the whole industry. So at the same time, we also met some difficulty to get the customers for Factom in China because of the regulations, government regulations, and restriction for the data security, things like that. So I was advised that I need to build a Baidu instead of Google. So that's why I decided to come back to China in 2016 and build a company called Glew. So at that time in 2016, things are kind of happening in 2 different worlds. One is on the digital currency side. There are more and more digital currency coming out, more ICO and more ICO coming out, and on Ethereum at that time, also on Bitcoin world. And on the other side, also there are traditional companies. They cannot get loans in China. We're trying to explore what we can do to help these companies get financed, and also a lot of people without banking access. And we were thinking how we can use blockchain to help them. So we were trying to bridge these 2 worlds, and trying to figure out how to come up with a solution, not only for China but also for the whole world. So that's why I think in the end of by the company called Glew, the reason for that means 10,000 chains, and then we want. I think in the future we will have many chains. We have to get them connected. Let's see. So we have at that time we built a global team, and I think based on my experience with Factom, we have to have a global team, and that's very important for any blockchain project to be successful. We have to build a global team. So I work with Dustin in Austin and build a team in Austin, and also in many different places around the world. So we're talking about the technical advantages. And look at the graph on the left. What we're trying to do is trying to build a bridge between all these different blockchains, not only the public chains, but also private chains. And if you look at the bottom, we actually have a concept called the land chain, and that's where we started. And local area network, consortium chains or private chains. And these enterprise solutions, we even provide today, and for some of the companies we work together, and we provide the solutions for the enterprises, and also some of the companies, they want to issue tokens, and we help them to build the solutions, and they will be automatically connected to Wanchain in this whole ecosystem. And Dustin will give you more details about those projects. And what we're trying to do is build something called Internet of Blockchains, right? I think we have many different key technologies over here. One is privacy protections. So whatever the transactions on Wanchain, we will have privacy protection, and which will have two different layers. One is for the native coins, Wancoin, and also any tokens created on top of Wanchain. The other one is smart contracts. Wanchain is based on Ethereum's code base, so automatically inherit all the smart contracts. And also cross-chain, right? If you look at the graph over here, the private chain's assets can be moved to Wanchain, and also the public chain assets can be moved to Wanchain. And in Wanchain, all these different assets can be programmed in the smart contracts. And I'll give you more details about how these three different technologies are so important. And also the goal of this platform is to integrate any public chain as long as they're using the public key and the private key scheme. We should be able to get connected. So based on this kind of all these goals, we came up with all kinds of design solutions at the time. We look at many different options, and we spent at least 6 months to come with the right solution. And at the end, we figured that these three key technologies are required in order to create this infrastructure. The first one is privacy protection. As I mentioned, this is very important. And then we look at different options as well, like Zk Snark and many others. And we settled down on the Monero style ring signatures with one-time account. And we ran into some issues with how we can come up, integration between the Monero style privacy protection with smart contracts. And we came up with the stem systems, so that the gas, when the smart contract is executed, whoever is paying for the gas can be hidden with the stem system. So what it means is when you want to issue a privacy token, when you want to send a privacy token from one address to another, first you want to buy a stamp, basically like postage, and you put on the envelope and send it out and put it in the post office, and then when it mail out, nobody can track where that is coming from, right? For the Wancoin ecosystem, we support two types of privacy protection. One is for the native coin, and the other one is for the privacy tokens. And we use different mechanisms in order to accomplish that. The second one is cross-chain. And also we spend a lot of time, and we pick the secure multi-party computation and also threshold key sharing. This one came from a Chinese scientist called Mr. Yao, Professor Yao. He's a Chinese born, but grew up in Taiwan, but educated in U.S. He's the only Turing Award winner, only Chinese Turing Award winner, and his famous SMPC theory was widely accepted. And we actually know this professor. He's currently in Beijing, and we were inspired by his theory, and also want to experiment with his theory. And we have a group of team look into that, and finally figure out, we can and use that scheme to control the private key for any chain. Basically similar to sharding, but with a group of decentralized nodes to control a locked account in a different chain. And we a group of researchers got together and tried the POC. We tested in our lab and finally figured that out. And we actually wrote paper and got verified by different professors and researchers. We figure out that it should work. So after long time of research, we figure out that we have a solution, and the cross-chain technology with our technology can allow us to integrate with any chain without having to modify the original chain. So the third key technology is smart contracts. As everybody knows, this is very, very important. Although the smart contracts on Ethereum has a lot of problems, but we are very confident that with a bigger and bigger community building the Solidity smart contracts on Ethereum, and with formal verification and many other technologies, we will make the smart contracts and more secure. We decided to use Ethereum because Ethereum has bigger developers community around the world, and I've been an investor of Ethereum, and I know that the Ethereum is a core development team pretty well. So so that's why we pick Ethereum's code base to start with. And also there are many development tools out there, and we can use the existing development tools as well as the existing smart contract code out there in the Ethereum community. So with these three key technologies, we can build the new infrastructure to get connected with all these public blockchains and also private blockchains. So here's a long-term vision, what we're trying to build for Wanchain. I think it's very important to build an ecosystem, right? With Ethereum itself, and I think it's very important. You have to build the apps and the applications on top of that, and then you have bigger and bigger community, right? So we borrow the same idea. We're trying to expand it, and at the end, we see the vision for Wanchain is we're trying to create the infrastructure to bridge the assets, basically the digital assets, and also the capital that is available. The one that wants to get into the new digital economy. So for all the capital available, either from the institutional investors or individual investors, either they have fiat money or digital tokens, we can let them in with different format we can set up funds. We call them WAN funds, and we let them to come in as tokens or equities. We also have traditional companies, and all of that will allow the capital to come in. But at the same time, we'll have many assets available. Once we are connected with different chains, and for example, Ethereum, any of the ERC20 tokens will be available, right? And whatever the ICO or cross sale available on Ethereum, we can, once we can get connected with Ethereum, all those ICOs will be available to all the capital on top of Wanchain. But at the same time, Wanchain can do the same thing using the smart contract similar like ERC20 token, and we can create ICOs on top of Wanchain. And with privacy protection technology, we can even create a privacy token or privacy token cross sale. And once we connected with both Ethereum and Bitcoin, we can create a smart contract or cross sale that will accept with multiple coins. So that's how we bridge the assets, digital assets with capital. At the same time, in the ecosystem, we will partner with many third-party providers and build many applications. So this will be more like an Android system. It will be open for any third party to participate and build this new infrastructure. So that's the vision. Dustin, you want to continue with your vision?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Jack. How's it going, everybody? Dustin Byington here, president of Wanchain, and we'll give you a little bit of background on our vision here about why we're so focused on rebuilding the financial services industry. My background is coming from the traditional financial services industry, and what we see here is that the real innovation is that of the digital asset. It's a new atomic unit that we can use to create an entire financial stack off of. And the effects of it are really profound. To kind of understand it, we have to understand a little bit about what digitization is and why it's important. When you digitize something, you turn it into, take it from something that's physical, and you turn it take it into the realm of zeros and ones. Peter Diamandis, founder of X Prize and Singularity University, is really kind of been speaking a lot about the impacts of digitization, and his argument is that when you digitize something, it hops on an exponential curve. An exponential curve is a doubling over some period of time, and we see from the traditional photography industry that when we digitize the photograph, it had these really profound impacts on the entire industry. The photograph, the megapixels started off at 0.01 and then 0.02 and then 0.04. They were doubling, but they were deceptively doubling, and that's the beginning part of the curve here. And that's the point when, you're having this, it's technically it is exponential, but the problem is that you can't really tell that it's going to be disruptive. It's not till that technology gets to a point that it's actually usable, it's get to 4, 8, 16, 32 megapixels that really starts changing that industry and having really disruptive impacts on that industry. And then at some point it actually dematerializes, and that the photograph itself kind of, not only the photograph itself turns into zeros and ones, but so too does the camera. The camera becomes a digital app that lives on your phone. And so this completely sort of has upended the entire, like, not only the photograph industry, but kind of the larger media industry. And with the digitization of the asset, we anticipate a similar kind of massively transformative impact on the financial services industry, and so we're building Wanchain to speed up that impact and to bring about that realization of the next generation of financial services. And so to give you kind of some idea of the speed and pace here, let's see if this video will work for us. Just 1 second. Well, we might not have luck here. Well, so these, unfortunately, this video is not loading for us, but if you look at this bar graph on the bottom, what this bar graph on the bottom is the digital asset issuance over time. And so on the far left, we have the very first issuance of, I guess this was Ethereum, the first ICO in January 14. And then you got, really not a lot happened. I guess Factom was what, Jack, like somewhere on here in like December of 14. And then the big bar after, oops. Hold on. Bear with us here.
Questions from the audience here.
Quick few questions would be awesome.
The two that were written down from people online that I thought they weren't actually quite going to mention here, but I will mention them, was who is Satoshi and are we going to make a lot of money here? No one actually said when Lambo, so I'm a bit disappointed.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's great.
And the thing I think everyone wants to know is how's the weather in China?
Oh, it's actually pretty good. Yeah.
And there was a little bit of
Yeah, the weather's been nice. Hong Kong was beautiful.
and no one actually asked that.
So we've got, and those of us in the industry, we kind of know this offhand, right? We had, since January 14 with Ethereum, there was just, a trickling of assets. And then after 16 happens, we've got the DAO here. That's that big kind of bar after January 16th. And still not a whole lot. And then all of a sudden, in 2017, you just have this, explosion of digital assets. It's really accelerating. And even though, the regulators around the world are trying to regulate it, we don't think that that's going to slow down. It might shift, and it might, we might call these by a different name. They might be, have various forms of regulation that are required by them in different jurisdictions. But the cat's out of the bag. Digital assets are here to stay, and they are going to profoundly impact not only our economy, but the global economy. The problem is that each one of these circles here that we're looking at, these are all effectively islands. Each one of these assets is isolated from the other. It's very much like the days of the intranet before we had a global internet that was connecting all of them. And so it looks something like this. So here we have, over here we've got this little island, and maybe this is Bitcoin, and this car right here is a Lambo, but it's still, there's still so much you can do by yourself on an island, no matter how big the house is, and how sweet the car and the boat are. It's just kind of boring. You're just kind of sitting there by yourself. But once you connect this island to the other islands around you, you get this flourishing economic activity. That's what Wanchain is doing. Wanchain is a bridge to the world's digital assets. And we believe that this is the bridges that we're building will unlock a tremendous amount of economic utility, again, not only for our ecosystem, but the larger global financial ecosystem. And so one visualization is that you can think of Wanchain. So it's, we're on blockchain. Jack talked earlier how we're built off the Ethereum code base. And what you can do is you can visualize that what we do is we take this Turing complete blockchain with privacy protection, and then we go build bridges to all the various world's digital assets. And along each of these bridges moves the digital asset. So, Ethereum can get deposited on Wanchain, Bitcoin can get deposited on Wanchain, Litecoin can get deposited on Wanchain. And then once we have this blockchain with all these assets on it, then things like decentralized exchanges are merely applications that are built on top of Wanchain. And it becomes actually trivial to build some really powerful applications, or to do things like building an index token for something, for example, is something we're excited about, because when you have, say, the top 10 coins on one blockchain, it's just a matter of putting them into a smart contract and issuing out another token that represents them. And so we're starting to see, I'll get into it a little bit later, some of the projects we're working on, but the power of the platform is starting to really be on display, and with all the applications we're working on. Another like mental model that you can use to think about Wanchain is to just think about, imagine if Ethereum, if you had Ethereum with privacy protection and all the protocol tokens. So things like Ether Delta are currently limited to the galaxy of ERC20s, but when you build decentralized exchange on Wanchain, not only do they benefit of the privacy protection, but they also get access to the universe of protocol tokens. This is also true for things like lending platforms. A lot of these, we're talking to a number of different lending platforms, and there's only so much you can do lending ERC20s back and forth. But when you can start putting Bitcoin into a contract and lending and borrowing against that to receive Litecoin or Zcash, things start to get really interesting really fast. And so this is the vision here, is that Wanchain is building financial infrastructure. It's like Wall Street. Wall Street, it's an island, and with Wanchain we have this like financial infrastructure, but in the soil are all these different digital assets that you can build applications on top of. And so right now we're in the process of, and so these apps can vary from things like the aforementioned exchanges or lending applications, asset management tools, index tokens, and that's just on the financial services side. We are a Turing complete blockchain, and so we can the whole realm of applications, general purpose applications in enterprise and healthcare can be built on Wanchain. We've been talking a lot about financial services because that's where we have some really unique advantages, but we're starting to get into looking more and more at enterprise and healthcare, because they too can take advantage of this cross-chain technology, and also privacy, especially in the healthcare space. It's just not suitable for a lot of these HIPAA compliance and things like that for them to build on public, totally transparent blockchains. And so right now, one of the really exciting things is that we've been the business unit that I'm running, we've been working on our Wanchain accelerator, which is helping we'll be announcing 6 projects at the Dubai conference that focus on various aspects of the stack. One of them is a stable coin that that's a very innovative approach to thinking about solving some of the known kind of black swan issues with current existing stable coins. Another is an asset management tool. Another is a lending platform. We have one that's a compliance framework that it's kind of like you can was done with our tokens. Effectively, what's going to happen is where I see the industry going, and where we'll be pushing it, is for basically you have exchanges that are handling the regulation. So exchanges are smart. In the kind of legacy world, the exchange is what says, hey, I am going to allow Jack to transfer this asset to Dustin. The asset's dumb, whether it's a security, a traditional security, or a bond. There's no intelligence in the asset, and so the exchange is the one that has all the regulation packed into it. But now with smart assets, what we can do is we can plug intelligence into the assets. So these assets won't allow themselves to be transferred unless the other party follows some set of compliance framework. So the other party has gone through KYC and AML, or is accredited via some designation of a specific jurisdiction. And so we're really excited about this, and this means that Wanchain is going to support security tokens actually much faster than I was anticipating. I was kind of thinking earlier that security tokens were going to take quite a while for us to sort out, but this sort of compliance, baking the compliance right into the tokens itself, means that we can accelerate that process. And so all these projects right now are moving through the Wanchain accelerator, and so we are working with them closely to get them ready for launch. And in Dubai, we'll be telling more and more about it. There's also a batch of enterprise projects that have kind of like millions of customers and VC backed that are looking to get into the blockchain space and leverage our technology and digital assets. And so we'll also be announcing those. If anybody has interest in learning more about it, we'll be attending the World Blockchain Forum, Mo Levin's conference in Dubai on April 16th. There's actually 2 conferences in Dubai on that date, so make sure you go to the right one. It's keynote.ae is the website. So we'll be there along with these 6 projects, and we'll have quite a long speaking engagement. We'll be diving into details of all of these and telling also a little bit more about the accelerator. I know some folks have been kind of like saying, and hey, where are the updates? What's been going on? I promise you, we have all been working diligently here. It's part of we just kind of been keeping quiet because every time we say something online, it's just a barrage of comments about when, etc. So you'll see in April just exactly what we've been working on. Sitting next to my buddy Lee Nee here, who's hasn't been sleeping every day. So so then I guess we can tell a little bit about the roadmap. The plan here is so Wanchain 1.0, which we launched, is really exciting. We have the world's first smart contract platform with ring signatures. That's live. That exists. It's not it's not a white paper. It's not testnet. Mainnet is up, and people are building on it. And then 2.0 will be going with Ethereum cross-chain transactions. 3.0 will be Bitcoin cross-chain. And then 4.0 will be doing consortium chains. And kind of expect that initially will be these networks are kind of like the vision is that this network becomes Godzilla, but it starts off as like an egg and like a little chicken, and so you have to kind of like protect these networks. And so in the early days, there will be these networks are kind of like start off slightly permissioned and closed. And then we open them up over time and bring in more and more validators, outside parties. And so that's also not quite reflected here, but that's also a big part of the technical roadmap. When you're launching your own blockchain, it's you have to take security first and foremost, because these are digital assets, and so that's so over time we'll also be opening up the network. And so that's it for the roadmap. And Jack wants to jump in.
Yeah, I just want to add a little more, right? We have 2 things that we're working on very diligently in the past few months after 1.0. One is the 2.0 design. We have been working, for several months, and pretty much the solutions are finalized, and we have a whole team working on it. And also at the same time, we are trying to improve 1.0 at the same time, right? We are doing the ledger support, as you all know. It's being tested, and we're working closely with ledger support team, and we'll release that version pretty soon. So that's where we are. Based on our current design, we are very confident that we should be able to deliver 2.0 code base very soon. And by the mid-year, we should have that integration with Ethereum. And I think that with a certain limitation, we should be able to deliver 3.0 ahead of schedule. That's what we hope for. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's great, guys. That's been a fantastic overview of everything about the project. So.
Click like and subscribe and join me on this crypto current affair. Just because it's double doesn't mean it's a bubble.